Very intriguing, this next item. Sit up and pay attention, please. Irish women are shooting themselves in the foot by not being more supportive of the man in their lives. Women could empower themselves more if they were just a little bit more understanding. That's what you'll hear at a special success seminar in Dublin next month, a seminar for women only. Judy May Murphy is one of the key speakers and joins us in studio. Judy May, good morning.
Good morning.
Sounds like you're going to be going a little bit against the tide with this, aren't you? This doesn't strike me as the sort of thing that you would expect to hear at a women's only conference.
Well, traditionally, women's conferences were sort of about we assert our rights and we make sure that everything's good for us. And that means making sure that men aren't getting everything. It was very competitive.
Yeah.
And for a while, that needed to be so because women were fighting for big things like basic rights to work, basic human rights. And now it's kind of changed. So women need to remember that, you know, men are there to support them and help them. Men love women. Men adore women. They'll do anything to make them happy. That's kind of why they live, is to make their women happy and support them. And a lot of women have lost sight of that in the sort of day-to-day frustrations of he didn't take the bins out, he doesn't listen to me, and all those things that go on.
You would more expect in a seminar to have derogatory things really being said about men and are, you know, a lot of bile being directed towards them, and we're no good and we're just there to keep you down, and the glass ceiling and
it's absolutely not true. And women find that once they start to really use the support systems around them, and it's not about manipulating men. It's not about, you know, say nice things to them, flatter them, compliment them, and then you'll get your way. It's really not that. It's about sort of seeing them as human beings who are different and have different ways of doing things. And that doesn't make those ways less than, just as our ways aren't less than. Because also women are finding that they're having to compromise their own femininity in order to become successful. And then they're not happy, and that is just not success.
Right, when you say that, what exactly do you mean?
So there's a lot of women who feel that they have to become really sort of tough and sort of wear a corporate uniform and not be their usual delightful, flowing, laughing, kind of even sometimes giggling self. Like they sort of think that that is somehow weak if they are feeling sort of in love with the world, that they have to somehow be like men, that they have to become sort of masculine and make a decision and be super strong and do that in a guy way rather than using their own strength and their own power, which is very, very different.
But that is the message you kind of get, isn't it? When you look at successful business women and people, they do seem to have taken on the attitudes and
that just breaks my heart because I actually coach a lot of those women and they're not happy. And once they learn that they can be just as successful when it comes to the finances and organising a big business, and they can also be themselves, that's a huge breakthrough for them. And that's really what I teach, is how to do that, how to both be feminine and be really, really happy and be in love and have a great life and also get all the material things that you want, all the recognition that you want, any of those other things.
On the other side of this, do you think men, you know, as a result of those attitudes, have a bit of a tough time? Are Irish men having a tough time now?
Irish men are having a very, very tough time. Irish men are actually in despair a lot of the time because their role has been taken away from them. And whether that's because they feel that they have been defining themselves by their job and that job doesn't exist anymore, or just they've been defining themselves as, well, at least I sort of lead my family and I'm there for people. And suddenly they're being told in small ways and big ways every single day, you're not doing a good job, you're not shaping up, you're not getting this right. It is absolutely soul destroying for them, and I think that there's a great hopelessness and helplessness that is set in amongst Irish men, and I think that is a much, much more defining challenge than anything that's going on financially.
So to look at some of the kind of advice you'd be giving for people, you know, what are the rules to try and improve things, make the men feel like they're not having such a tough time, be a bit more valued, and have, you know, women to be more empowered and happier, I think, very more important even.
Yes, well, and that is, for me, that is what empowerment is, because when you are happy and you're creative and you're really on fire, you're being your best self, then you become more successful. So the first thing that we have to remember is that it's natural. When you are frustrated, when you're feeling threatened, when you're feeling like things aren't going right, it's natural to look for what's wrong and to kind of point the finger at other people. And instead to then turn that around and say, okay, I am frustrated that my husband hasn't got a job yet or hasn't been promoted. I am frustrated because I'm worried about money. I am frustrated that he hasn't done this and that. And then say, okay, that's that. And let's look at what he's doing right. Well, the fact that he's still here You know, it's really tough, and he's still coming home to us every single day. Or the fact that he, you know, is putting up with being complained at, or the fact that he, God bless him, he does his best to dress his kids in the morning, even though they look like a shower at the end of it. And just catch people doing right and just sort of say, you know what, I really appreciate that. Because in order to grow and in order to do things better, people have to be praised.
Yeah.
When you've got a little kid and they're, say, 3 years old and they're learning how to eat, you don't yell at them, hopefully, every time, you know, some peas fall off the plate or they, you know, they miss their mouth. In the same way, we as adults need to be supported in the same way when we make mistakes. And a lot of men are feeling that they can't make mistakes because women are kind of slamming them down and saying, no, don't do that, do this. So as women, we need to just kind of notice that we're feeling it and not say it, and then find something good that the man is doing and communicate that instead, and thank men all the time.
There's times you sound like you're training a little dog.
No, I don't think so. I think
He's doing great.
But it's not that. It's not about being condescending. It's not about being manipulative. It's really about looking for factually what is there. Because otherwise, what's the alternative? You're going to be, like, you know, to use your terms, kicking the dog. You know,
Yes,
is that any
you will.
better?
Putting him out, rubbing his nose in it, and all the other things that
Yes.
go with it. It's a little bit of things like that. Roles have changed so much over the 40 or 50 years in the last since the 60s, I suppose. That, you know, a man comes home in the evening, maybe he's working all day, he gets the child handed to him. There was a day when there'd be a bit of like, you've worked hard all day, sit there, read your paper, regather your thoughts, join the family when you're ready. That's all gone. You are literally handed the child.
It is gone in some families, but families where everybody is really supported and everybody is treated as their best self, that is not the case. I know a lot of women who, as soon as the man comes home, and they are working full-time jobs as well, and then they pick up the kids, and so they're also frantic. And yeah, the tendency is to want to just hand the child over and say, here, you do your bit. But when you understand that men's brains are actually different. Men's and women's brains are biologically, biochemically, neurologically different. That's just fact now. We can trace that.
Multitasking and the inability to do it is not a myth. It's genuine in the brain.
It's true. That's the corpus callosum, exactly. And there's loads of different ways in which we have to understand that we operate differently. So for men, they cannot jump from one thing to another as quickly. They can't go from work mode to kid mode in 3 seconds flat the way a woman can. So in fact, as a woman, if you want your man to be amazing for the rest of the evening, if you want him to be, you know, fixing those light bulbs, if you want him to be reading the bedtime stories to kids, give him that half hour when he comes home to readjust.
All right, I'm going to fly a flag for the half hour. Ladies, are you hearing that? Could Judy May have explained it any more clearly to you? Give us that half hour when we get in. Gentlemen, how valuable would you say that half hour would be? Are you getting the half hour? Are you a different man for it afterwards? Or are you one of those who doesn't get it at all and is like a wasp in a bottle for the rest of the evening? 53106 for your text, 1894 53106 for your calls. Judy May, thank you very much.